All right, so we back at it again, and this one is entitled "Social Media Support." And say the least, a lot of channels get a lot of recognition throughout the YouTube platform that we're on now, TikTok, you name them, Instagram, Twitter. Um, Dang, is anybody still using? Yeah, I know people still use Black Planet, but what's that? Snapchat? I guess some people still use Snapchat, but say the least, the support is not always, typically people want to make the money on these platforms, so it's not really all the way in to where you can say, as long as I keep getting the sub count, I'll make the money. It pretty much, you know, having a relationship with your subscribers, dealing with them, supporting their content. If they're not a content creator, uh, you know, just supporting them when they come in the chat, that helps a lot. A lot of times, you know, a lot of the smaller channels is the reason why I started We Here, and I tend to try to go more or less to the smaller channels before going to the bigger channels because they have a lot of support from people. You know, not to discredit the big channels for doing all their hard work, but when it comes down to it, a lot of the smaller channels don't get as much recognition, in my opinion. Shout out to Gold Professor. He always say sometimes the smaller stores carry the best products. And, that's say the least because, people tend not to go to these smaller stores until a situation happens. For a real instance, let's say you have a mom and pop shop and someone just so happened to get stuck somewhere, the car battery's dead, or have a flat tire, they got to kill some time. So they might walk into one of those mom and pop stores and be like, "Oh man, there's some great stuff in here," you know, or go to a yard sale. You have all the people with the big old yard sales, and you have this old couple that has a couple of things. Sometimes you find a lot of good gems in these small yard sales because they have things that some people are willing to get rid of and shoot out that pretty much to an extent they've had for years and don't know. Like for instance, Gary V always does this. He goes and if people don't know who Gary V is to a degree, Gary V is the guy made his millions upon billions, um, talks about how his father, worked at a bar and he ended up buying the bar. Just hard work and dedication pays off. But Gary V and his media and platform does numbers and they do well. But he yard sales and typically he goes to places he'll see some like Hot Wheel cars. He'll ask to buy a whole slew of Hot Wheel cars for about $5 or $10. Most of the time, the people cave say, "Go ahead." Probably five of those cars are worth, $10 to $25. Just one car can pay for the whole thing that he has, and whatever he don't sell that's worth anything, he can always go and shoot it somewhere else. Yeah, and also buying cars too. Yeah, he buys a lot of cars. Just spoke him up, and here he is, Gold Professor. Just was telling him about your method of sometimes the smaller stores carry the best products, and going into it, there's a lot of times to where you can sit here and get good support from people, and it's not even a form of just asking and pushing for people to support you. Just putting out the content because it speaks for itself. You know, Generally when I do my lives, I can get way more support if I was to go with the narrative or go with everyone else is doing. Hot topics, trending topics, as they say, shooting the tea. 'Cause that's like a big thing right now. The tea amongst channels, like, oh, what celebrity's doing this or who's doing that, and you get the recognition that way. But most of the time, you're gonna have to keep going with that population. I mean, I'm sorry, with that popularity of bringing the information like that, because that's what your channel is going to be known for. Just like a lot of people go into like the beef sector, they will go into the beef sector and have these back and forth with people, and typically that's what they get known for within the beef sector. You know, so you would have to keep it up. You have to keep going at people, keep arguing with people. It's quite a bit of people that came from the beef sector try to, come at me sometimes, but I generally just laugh about it because, you know, that's their mode, and if you play into it, that's what they're hoping and wishing. That's the whole thing. It's not a fight if the other person is not fighting back. Then it gets weird, you know. Someone's hitting on you and you just letting them do it and not doing anything. Even the person that wants to fight you, they get kind of, flustered too about it because I'm like, I want to fight them, but they're not fighting back. So typically when you have these different supports, it's all pending on what type of support that person wants to give you. Sometimes they can be monetary. They can give you some money. They can hit the cash out. If you're monetized, they can hit the super chat. Or sometimes it could be a form of just sharing you out. Sharing out your video. And note, sometimes you got to understand when people are in the live, you're listening to the content. Sometimes you forget to share, you forget to like, because most of all, you don't want to miss any information, especially if it's good content, you know. So you tend to always want to, get in there and see what's going on. And that's like the biggest thing. Yeah, the B sector is crazy. Once you get over there, I don't, I stay my distance. If I do go over there to look around, that's about it. Other than that, it's too crazy going on. I don't see how these people, because you have to keep it going. It's like the momentum is always like rage and fire. Shout out to Aunt T and the Purge. When he have his purge, it's like it constantly has to keep being on flame. If not, it's not entertaining. And now recently, because a lot of people know about it. You have new people come in that give a new perspective or kind of beef, but then the others is almost like pity pat, like going back and forth. But say the least, like I say, sometimes when you're in the live, you forget to share, you forget to like. So that's even like with me. Sometimes I got to remind myself to tell people, it don't even really matter to me about the sharing or the likes. I mean, even though it helps kind of push with the algorithm. But the main thing with me is getting people here to, pay attention and get some of the information because it's not going to be for everybody. Like I say, my channel was built more or less saying that we here to support a lot of the smaller channels and go from there. But overall, you know, just your content should speak for itself. And I got into the garden community now, growing bell peppers and tomatoes. I got my carrots growing. I got to give an update on all that. And my cucumbers, like dead in the water. The most I've was them blossom, but the rain killed them. My carrots are doing pretty good. Corn, everybody told me corn was hard to grow. I'm starting to see that now because dried out. One day and out, I think one day, 1 or 2 days without watering and just dried out on me. But yeah, my carrots are going pretty good. Tomatoes pretty good. Tomatoes starting to fade out. I guess it's about that season, and I need to start dropping my greens and everything. Everybody's saying about the greens to be growing now, so it's just something for me to get into and more or less get my kids involved as well, so it benefits them. But overall, doing the work, putting in the work, it takes time amongst anything that you do. So more or less, just people stick with it and stick at it, and support your content creators. You know, some of them put a lot of work in, and some of them don't. But to a degree, you sub to them, so why not support them? you know. And VOM, haven't seen you around here before. I could tell because okay, I'm back on the live and didn't see him. That's weird. I see you. Yeah, I actually see you on my StreamYard, but when I go to YouTube, because I tend to try to give people wrenches. Yeah, that's weird. I mean, if anything, if it pops up later and you come back another time, I'll give you a wrench. But I most of the time try to give people wrenches that come in my chat so they can actually go and see other people's channel easier than just searching through by the name because it makes a lot easier to actually just do that. So yeah, but more or less, like I said, supporting the channels and helping everybody grow. I mean, that's for you to do, or that's for the other person to support. Whomever. Everybody's not going to be this so-called YouTube famous off the rip. So it takes time, MSV. It takes time for you to actually, spread your name amongst different channels. Maybe you have to come up and, you know, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go back and look at the video and see if your name pops up there. But majority, just spreading some love. A lot of times when I started growing, this is my second channel. The first channel was pretty decent, but I didn't really do too much with the supporting. Well, I take that back. On my first channel, I used to always give super chats. I mean, not super chats, cash apps instead of the super chats and stuff. So uh, mainly the channel can get all that money. But once my cash app got taken, I just pretty much stopped sending cash apps, didn't really give the super chat. So, but more or less, I'll try to support, share the channels out, like do small videos and clips promoting other people's channel and stuff. And my channel just evolved into different, variations to the point of me just saying, well, let me go ahead and build my channel and build some content for me, more or less, than trying to share in a lot of people. And a lot of people I speak on me being over there talking to guys in the manosphere, and more or less thinking that it was more along the lines of brotherhood, and it kind of turned left over the years in which I've been over there. But I still support them because I mean most majority of the guys I knew from YouTube, that's where I made my bones at over there. And there's a lot of guys who believe in, certain things. Some of them just mainly believe in, you know, family expectations or whatever. But to a degree, I moved around, got into the gardening space, uh, stayed away from the beef section for the most part. But, finance is a big thing. Got into dealing with, because before I got into any other sections, I was always into documentaries and documentaries and finance. So that was my biggest thing. Documentaries, finance, anything dealing with business, anything would help me manage my money. Those were the biggest things I were invested in. So actually it would, be fitting for me to have my channel centered around majority of that stuff too as well. And then came into these other spaces, start learning things about them, the way they move, you know, and learn how to combat myself against just typical issues going on with certain people and certain things. A lot of the political side I've learned more or less matured over in these spaces as well to kind of hold my ground. I was on a the Black Brain Trust the other night. Me and Alonzo Hall, for people that know, the All Star Advisor, sells insurance. Man, he was, just having a conversation about different things within the politicians or promising things and not, keeping their word or not even actually having a conversation. So, supporting within that, the Black Brain Trust have a lot of, conversations worth listening and, engaging in. So that's one of the channels I, deeply try to get around and support as well. But for the most part, I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here. Wasn't supposed to be that long of a video, mainly just talking about what it is, supporting channels, supporting within yourself. If you're a YouTuber, you got to start putting out content. What you want your content to be, and what type of audience do you want? Because the type of content that you put out, that's the type of audience you're gonna have to come support you. If you want to keep the beef going and all this other stuff, and the tea, the gossip, it's gonna go from there. So with that being said, once again, you know what I always say, this is She We Here, and we are gone.